think so.
That's fine. Let me just get to it. I forget our group is smaller now.
Yeah.
So it comes around fast. Not that you have to like do all this planning to lead. You just pull it up. All right. Cloudflare case. With regards to the key elements of the business model, what should Cloudflare start doing with respect to CVP, GTM, TOM, and CFF? And I can't tell you like 3 of those, but
yeah, that's a hard question. Do the exhibits help at all? I haven't looked over all of them yet.
I don't really describe it. I think CVP is cost, volume, profit.
Or central venous pressure.
It's gotta be that one. As I say, you don't need to really prepare to lead these, and then the first question. So we need to describe key elements of the CVP, the GTM, the TOM, and CFF. Cost, profit.
So, based on what I'm seeing, cost volume profit just looks like a break-even analysis.
And then GTM, let's see. Google Tag Manager or Global Traffic Manager.
Sounds about right.
Go-to-market strategy.
Sounds a little bit better.
I don't think I'm gonna. What is TOM?
Yeah, I don't.
Okay.
We have to be missing a textbook that we're supposed to be reading.
I'm like double checking the like prep materials and stuff. There's literally nothing.
Instructor, if you're watching this, I'm gonna make an audible. We have no idea what any of these mean and how to answer it, so we're going to skip this question. Is everyone fine with that?
Yeah.
It's for me.
I mean, I Google it and I can't get an answer for the acronym. So, anyways, working as a group, take a closer look at Cloudflare's cash flow formula. Suppose we have to hire more engineers in direct proportion to how we scale. How long will it take to become profitable? Use an actual spreadsheet and turn it in after the discussion.
Well, that's not good.
Wow. Okay.
So it was. What was it? Sorry. What was the first part of that question?
Take a closer look at Cloudflare's cash flow formula. Suppose we have to hire more engineers in direct proportion to how we scale. How long will it take to become profitable?
So his cash flow formula. Okay.
So basically, we would do a what-if analysis to see how many engineers it takes to become profitable, if I understand correctly.
I guess, but where do we get the information for that?
Above? No, I'm kidding.
Is that in the actual case? Oh, rent use customers average 5 agents per office and about 440 of monthly revenue.
That's the wrong case.
That's rent juice.
Oh,
Yeah, we're looking at Cloudflare.
yeah, I have the wrong one open.
Marginal.
Sorry.
Okay. Workers group take a close look at cash flow formula. Did they have a cash flow formula?
I thought I did a good job reading the cases today. I feel more lost than last week.
Yeah,
There's not even there's like no exhibits for this week either for Cloudflare.
So
from what I understood, I wrote about their profit formula. So to date, 95% of the revenue comes from paid subscriptions. Their annual revenue rate would be in the range of 4.8 million. So basically it says if this rule held in Cloudflare, which had 35 employees, then such expenses would equal 5.25 million. Total expenses would be 7.85 million, implying a 3.05 million annual loss. So I'm guessing they took the 4.8 million and subtracted it by the 7.85 million. And that's how they said there was a $3.05 million loss. I don't know if y'all see that on the case or not. There's like a section that talks about the profit formula.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Rough rule of thumb was a Silicon Valley startup whose staff managers might pay $150,000 per head in salary, benefits, rent, and overhead. Okay, so that gives us the fixed cost, and then we need to figure out what the variable cost is, and then we can do. I have a break-even analysis spreadsheet already created from a different case.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
Let me see.
It does talk about estimating these costs to be about 3.5 per million page views.
$3.5 per $3.50 per million page views. Okay, so fixed cost is going to be equals 150,000
Times the 35 employees.
times.
Oh, it already gives it. It's 5.25 million. But
525. Okay, and the question's asking for 35 employees. For how many employees are we supposed to be doing the break even
Which
for?
had 35 employees, so I don't know. The question doesn't really specify, does it?
Suppose it were to hire more engineers in direct proportion to how we scale. Is there an engineer to client ratio in there?
I didn't see any.
It just says how much they'd pay them.
Okay, so they.
Oh, I did find it. 26 of whom were engineers.
26 out of the 35?
Yeah, so 74% of them. So just assume, I don't know. It's kind of a lame assumption. There'd be always 74% of the workers are 3/4. That's a good way of putting it.
So are we. Okay. Fixed cost, variable cost per unit. How do we break that up into the right sizes? Okay, for price estimates, these costs to be about per million page views. How many page views are they expecting to get?
2 billion daily.
2.6 million on an annual run base rate. Okay.
Might be easier.
Yeah, but so how many clients do they have for that? For that, do we know client count? Because we need to get cost per unit.
If 4% of 500,000 customers paid $20 monthly. Oh wait.
Okay, so variable cost is going to be okay. Variable cost per unit is what we need in order to get break even. So if there are 500,000 customers, then essentially we can take the 2.6 million divided by 500,000, and that would get us cost per unit, right?
Yeah.
$5.20. And then sales price is $20 a month.
Yep, monthly.
So 20. So let's see, drop this down to 1,000 units. Nope, that's too few. 2,000. Here, I'll share my screen so you can see what I'm doing. Golly. Oh, there we go. So break even. So according to this, 354,000 units or 354,000 customers is what they need. And they have 500,000, but they're still not breaking even, so that formula is not right. I must have something wrong with variable cost.
What did you have in there for the variable cost?
I had the total, let's see, the total cost per page view on an annual basis divided by, oh, this is probably going to have to be times 12. 500,000 customers that are billed on a monthly basis.
It says if 4% of the 500,000 customers paid. Does that throw you off?
Still doesn't.
If 4% of the 500,000 customers paid a $20 monthly subscription fee. So 4% of the 500,000 times 12, right?
That's not good. Oh, that's because it's times, not divided by. Break even. Nope, that's not right either.
Still weighing the negatives.
Yeah.
What the heck?
Negative. Did it have an acquisition? So, yeah, $3 per million page views. Why would that be negative? B1 divided by B. Oh, that's why. Cost per unit. 500. Should be negative. Yeah. So variable cost is too high. 2.6 million. Okay. 0.6 million divided by 12. That gets that. Yeah, they should be making money. So maybe that's why. It's not going to be $20 for all of these. Run rate would be an average of 4.8 million. It looks better. So fixed cost, they told us what the fixed cost is. Variable cost, I think I was trying to make that too complicated. I'm just going to say the variable cost, because even though 4% of the customers pay $20,000, they still have all of these customers. So the variable cost is going to be dependent on how many sign up. So I just did the variable cost annual rate divided by the total customers to give a variable cost per unit, to break each customer into one unit. And then the sales price per unit, I took their 4.8 million in annual revenue and divided it by the total number of customers. So that gives us their break-even point at 1.12 million or 1.19 million customers. So they would need to almost triple in size before they were profitable. Does that look good?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's the best way to do it. I think you're right. We're trying to make that too complicated.
Well, it goes on to ask, does Cloudflare management want to get big fast? What benefits does Cloudflare receive from scale? And it goes underneath, talks about, does Cloudflare have economies of scale? Basically saying marginal cost decrease with the increase in customers.
Do we have to do a spreadsheet on that?
It doesn't say we need to.
Okay. I think they do have economies of scale because they can have more throughput. Oh, crap. I just deleted something. Gosh dang it. I'm going to do that over again. I just deleted our spreadsheet on accident. And it won't let me undo it. Hang on, let me recreate this real quick. What did we say? 2.6? No. What was our fixed cost again? 5.2.
Like how in these questions, it actually explains what it's asking.
Okay. I back up. Okay, I recreated it. Okay, so we had what was, does Cloudflare have economies of scale?
Yeah.
I think they do, because if they hire one engineer, they can service more people in general, and the way that they were developing, I think it was this one, the way that they were developing the software or the hardware, they were not looking to expand like their hardware. They were wanting to, I think it was this one, wasn't it? They wanted to,
Yeah.
they wanted to develop software rather than expanding their hardware.
And they were trying to get software to the medium-sized, small-sized brokers, giving them like a CRM.
Yeah.
Or am I thinking of the other case?
The other case was a CRM.
Oh, shoot. Oh, sorry. Two softwares got them mixed up.
Yeah. So for one, yes, I think that they have economies of scale, because the way that they developed the software, they were developing software to solve problems rather than just buying more servers and whatever. So their fixed costs in relation to revenue decrease with more customers, which means the economies of scale work for them. And then does Cloudflare have network effect? Yes. The CEO in that Bloomberg interview said that their system learns. So if there was an attack on one of their clients, because their system is centralized, then that attack they could solve the problem for, and they would bring the solution to the whole cloud-based system. So if another client ended up getting the same attack, it would already be solved before the attack hit.
Oh.
So the more customers they have on, the better the whole effect, because their system learns from the different attacks and then pushes it out to all of their customers. So rather than each customer having to run into the same thing, once one does, all of their customers are protected from that thing.
So then do they have high switching costs, which is basically saying, is it painful for a customer to switch over?
No. So in that interview too, did you guys watch that? He said that it takes about 5 minutes for somebody to get set up on Cloudflare because they do all the front end stuff, and all I don't know exactly how it works, but essentially their software goes in front of their website, so all they have to do is link their website up to Cloudflare system, and it's done. It's already protected.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. So there was like little to no cost or time associated with switching to Cloudflare.
So, and the next question is, what is a reason why they would want to grow big so fast? I did see a thing that said their system gradually gets better and smarter and it learns, kind of like how the customers all benefit over time. So the faster they grow big, the better their system is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more accurate.
Yep.
And then why would they not want to grow fast?
I think the reason they wouldn't want to grow fast is one of the reasons that the case was put together is that they have a terrible management and corporate structure, and they don't have any issues with their software, but they have internal issues. Like,
yeah, when you first read everything, you're like, this company is incredible, and then just like they don't even have to, they barely have to market. They do well from a technology operations standpoint, but
yeah. Yeah, I titled my write-up for this Kumbaya. Yeah, so for me, the only real reason to not grow so fast is internal operation issues, HR issues.
and then the next part is discuss each of the resignations for each one, list the reasons why they left, and ask what you would have done to change it. What would have to change for that person to have stayed? And then, is it worth to make those changes to keep the people who left? What will happen to the other employees who work there if your changes are implemented? Why do people work at Cloudflare? What keeps them motivated? Did they join the company so they could be told what to do? Have process and structures, or to change the internet?
Well,
So we go to the first one.
so Dale, what was Dale's main concern? That they weren't getting quality, or they were trying to get high quality people and it wasn't feasible? Libraries are concerns.
Dale's was here. I
think he was too busy. Let me get to it. From what I understand, his role, he was basically on call 24/7.
He just got burnt out, I think.
Yeah, he's like, I can't keep doing this.
I think, yeah. So I put that he was worked to death, and when he complained about it to management or who he thought was management and could do anything about it, they didn't move. Like, they just ignored him.
Yeah. Okay. So then David Conrad, he also quit before his 1 year anniversary.
His big thing, one thing they just lacked in IT for just like setting up, like he mentioned printers. He also just mentioned there's no organizational chart, no basically accountability or reporting lines. It's just kind of
There's no HR process.
it's kind of just free for all. And I actually listed this one as the most concerning. Basically, it just sounded like chaos.
Well, and he didn't know who to go to talk about that stuff because nothing's put into place.
Right.
So I could see why that's just a disaster.
Yeah.
Or a disaster waiting to happen.
Well, then I think it's hard for people to accomplish things in their assigned role when they're worried about ticky-tack things like setting up random IT stuff or wondering who to report to or worrying if they're about like sick day policies and how expenses are handled. I mean, that's why HR is nice. It helps people focus more on their assigned role than just these like things that distract them from their actual job.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I kind of put that as the biggest thing, that their fluid organizational structure works when you have 10 people working for you and all of you have the same basic like desire for the company and personal goals. Like you don't care if you don't have a personal life, but once you start adding diversity of what they think life balance is and what they want out of the company and all of those things, then the fluid organizational structure does not work. It's like playing a game that you made up with your friends and everybody just kind of has these understood rules that you don't have to say, and then you bring in like 3 more people who are trying to play the game too, and they're like, wait, what's the rule for this? And all of the friends are like, well, we've never run into that before, so we don't have a rule for it. And they're like, well, we've run into it now, so what's the rule? And then nobody wants to make a rule. Like,
no one is in charge to make the rule.
Yeah. So it's fun, I guess, when everybody, like a game that you made up, is all on the same page and you've never run into these issues. But as soon as you start adding people that like they don't have the same basic understandings and goals, then you just run into major issues.
Yeah.
The other one is David Zucker. Basically, he just didn't feel like he was satisfied with his job because he was getting long hours and it messed with his family life. So that one was pretty similar. He was just getting burned out. And then the interesting thing is all these people I was reading, they all came in highly motivated and excited.
Then they were just gone.
Right.
They didn't even make it to like their year marks, hardly.
And I think they gained something from hitting their year mark too, so they had reasons to stay.
Yeah, they got stock shares.
Right.
Which could be hugely lucrative if, they went public or something. That could be worth a lot of money.
And then there was 2 more people. They both said, I'm burned out, I'm going to quit. Kind of similar things all across with everyone. So that talks about, is it worth to make those changes to keep the people who left? What will happen to other employees who work there if your changes are implemented? Why do people work at Cloudflare? What keeps them motivated?
I think that they need to have a formal organizational structure. I mean, every one of the people who resigned largely resigned because of inattention from management. Either they felt like the problems that they were having were being ignored, like what's his name, David Zucker.
Yeah.
He asked continually to change the Friday meeting at 5 to a different time so that he could get home at a reasonable hour to just put his kids to bed, and they ignored it. So like just complete inattention from management or acknowledgement that there were even issues that the employees were facing. And the other thing that when you don't have a formal organizational structure, you have nobody in place to look at what employee strengths and weaknesses are. So you don't have any way to allocate assignments to people who really enjoy doing things. And you have no formal training process to say, hey, you're struggling with this, but it's important for the company, so this is what we're going to do to get you there. So the CEO kind of feels like this, like just whatever happens is going to be the most motivating, most freeing thing for people. But people really do need structure in order to know how to get where they want to go. And I think that his initial free fluid structure worked because it was so few people who all kind of had the same basic family and lifestyle. But that's not the current reality. And I think those people would still be fine with with the formal organizational structure, as long as they were still doing the things that they like to do, and they could assign them those things and it wouldn't be a big deal.
Yeah.
So as a group, we need to decide, should we implement more process and structure and hire a VP of HR and start using titles? I think we all agree yes.
Yes.
Should growth be slowed down? I don't think growth necessarily needs to be slowed down. I just feel like if they keep growing without implementing the decision we made above, then they should slow down.
Yeah.
Reevaluate things.
Mm-hmm. Discuss what will happen to your company, to the company under your recommendations, what will happen to the culture and motivation of the current employees, what will happen to the cost structure, then therefore profitability of the company.
Well,
I always feel like there's indirect effects on sales if you're taking care of things internally. Employees are more motivated, so I think that's one way to help the profitability of the company.
Yeah, I think their fixed costs might go up. VP of HR is not going to be cheap.
No, we probably need to hire a few.
Yeah, but their fixed costs might go up, but I think their variable costs will go down. And when you're dealing with like the scale that they're dealing with, having a lower variable cost is going to be more important. So I think overall that they'll make more money.
Yeah.
All right, let's head up to the rent juice case. Vote individually. Should David Vivanero raise money now? Yes or no?
Yes.
I said yes as well.
I said yes as well. And why?
My big thing was, I know he thinks 8 months is a long time to have extra cash, but it comes so quickly that, I mean, I think it's better to have the money in the hand when you don't need it than going bankrupt because you need money and you don't have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if someone's willing to invest $5 million, I don't see much of the debate.
Yeah. The only downside that I could see is if that person, I think that they could negotiate that out. But the only downside that I could see is an investor coming in and saying, hey, I'm investing so early, I want a large part of the equity of the company.
Yeah.
But they could go back and say, look, we don't need your cash. We're happy to take it, and we want you to be part of the team. But you're not getting the equity that you would get from a company who is hard up for cash. So I think that with the skilled negotiation, they could still be okay without much, without giving up too much equity.
There's read page 7. I tried to raise funds conversion funnel. I can get to that. I tried to raise funds from Sandhill Road venture capitalists in October and November. They liked our team and our idea, but they told me to come back when I had proved the model in more than one city. Demonstrated lifetime customer value well in excess of average customer acquisition cost, and had reliable data on my sales cycle and conversion funnel. Okay. Why do investors care about customers' lifetime value? CLV, customer acquisition costs, CAC, and sales conversion data. I put, they care about the amount of money it takes to bring in and take out. CAC is the amount of resources that a business must allocate in order to acquire an additional customer. I also said knowing what lifetime customers bring in helps project forecasts and also future plans on expansion and where certain expenses can go and can't go. Best ways to utilize assets. That's one way investors value companies, is how well they use their resources or assets and make money off of it.
Yeah, I said ultimately investors are investing in a company for their future cash flows and net income, which drive stock prices and dividends and everything else. And one of the best indications of future cash flows is the customer lifetime value, which is ultimately how much money they bring in from per customer minus the acquisition cost, and how efficient they are at converting, a prospect into a customer. All those play into ultimately what is going to be the cash flow in the future. So that's why investors care about it.
Yep.
So if you've seen The Office, you can use the question Ryan asked: is it cheaper to keep a customer or get a new customer?
Yeah.
That's funny.
And then number 2 is, what is CLV of a rent juice customer? You'll be asked to report your decision in the post-discussion poll. Okay.
So what formula did you guys use? Because when I Googled it, there were like 10 different formulas.
Whatever the first one on Google was is the one I used. So total revenue you expect to get from each customer. So basically average order value divided by 1 minus the repeat purchase rate.
I got that too. So how did you get the average order value?
I just did the monthly revenue per customer.
So what ended up being your? I'm pulling mine up so I can check mine too. But what did your CLV end up being?
I didn't do it.
Oh, see, I did the average order value times the frequency times the margin, because I went through like 4 or 5 different websites and found one that had the most concrete formula for the information that was given, and then I used that formula. So I came up with almost $4,000 per customer for their lifetime value.
Hmm.
But in the formula I had, so the 2 formulas I looked at, there was the churn. You had to look at the what you just said. That was the first one that I came up on Google.
Mm-hmm.
I had a hard time. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I had a hard time reconciling one portion of the formula with the information given. And so as I kept looking, there was another one that showed average order value, which is what I used, the 440. But it needed to be the annual, times the frequency. So the frequency was 12 times a year. So I multiplied it by 12, and then I multiplied that by the 75% margin.
So you took the 440 and then
Multiplied it by the frequency, which was
12.
since it's a monthly thing, I multiplied it by 12.
And then times 0.75.
Yep. And I didn't even, with that formula, I didn't have to use the CAC at all, because it's built in with the gross margin.
Now, what is the annual churn?
So that is
That was where I was kind of confused.
Yeah. So annual churn is how many clients you lose in an annual basis. So the opposite of that, the 62% would have been your retention rate.
Got you. And then it talks about how well is the sales funnel at Rent Juice working? What can you think of to improve it? How can you reduce CAC? Well, basically, you either have to widen the funnel or be more efficient. Isn't that basically how the funnel would work?
Yeah. I think a 2% close rate is terrible.
Oh yeah, are you talking about the little break?
Yeah,
they
they
get
had
21 and 9.
Yep. So ultimately, they started off with 100 customers or 100 prospects, and they closed 2 sales out of that. So a 2% close rate, I think, is really not good.
Even if they doubled that.
Right. Which shouldn't be hard with training and maybe more targeted, like lead list or something.
And then how should Vivero respond to the new competitions? List all the options you can think of, list pros and cons of each option. As a group, you must decide on a course of action.
List all of the options you can think of.
I didn't read much about a competition. That's where I'm kind of.
Well, it was at the very end when he was trying to launch. So I think Rent Juice was originally for brokers,
Right.
and he was wanting to come out with another software that was for renters and for somebody else. And he was developing that when competition came in and had released a product, or was in process of releasing a product that was going to compete with that. I mean, from what I can see, I guess there's a couple of options he could do with competition. He could ignore it completely and just do his own thing, or he could try to piggyback on the competition, or he could try to kill the competition. And I don't see Rent Juice being. What's that?
Those are all your options, really.
Yeah, and I don't think Rent Juice is big enough or mature enough to try to kill the competition. So to me, he either tries to join with them and do something together, or try to piggyback off it in some way, or just ignore it and do their own thing, which I think is their best option now. They don't have time to mess around, but I don't think.
They can do different brand positioning, different angle.
Yeah.
Track different customers.
Yeah, and I don't think they need to really worry about it anyways, because their original software bridges the new software. So as they get more customers to sign up for the existing software, it should bridge into sales in the new software anyways, because it would be a unified platform.
All right. Well, I have the questions listed on the discussion board again. Or not discussion board. The Google Doc. I listed let's see. I guess one of the questions we just answered was B and A. So we can actually
I think we're supposed to said there was something like a poll we were supposed to do. Hang on.
see the poll. Maybe.
Yeah, I didn't. It said, hang on, where is that?
Is it just referring to us talking about it at the end? Or?
Yeah, at the end of your meeting, take time to give a summary, to summarize your votes and final decisions, thoughts. You will need to provide a timestamp in addition to your link so the instructor will know when the summary begins. So we should probably do the summary and then end the meeting and then do the assignment.
So, okay. Yeah, I can put that in. I
Okay,
can figure
cool.
that out once we do it.
So if you want to, do you have the timestamp already, or here? I'll just do. This will be.
Yep, that'll work.
So that will timestamp it. Okay. So summary of the Cloudflare case. I don't remember. Oh, we agreed that they should hire a VP of HR and make some more formal processes and structure and kind of have like a better organization. That we don't see any downside right now to growing. We think that they should grow, and that a formal organization or structure would be really good for new employees coming in, and they could make it to where it didn't really impact the employees that are already there. So didn't really see a downside to any of the changes that need to be made.
Yeah, just overall improve the work environment.
Yeah.
And if they needed to, just take a little bit to figure it out, like you said, and then they can keep growing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, they shouldn't necessarily have to stop either. It can all just kind of go into play. So.
Yeah.
I guess their only downside is initially it's going to cost more because of the salary and things for the. I don't know. I'd imagine. I don't know. Maybe they even have to hire certain management skills, but maybe at least 5 new people.
Yeah.
And then assuming their company grows with more employees. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Then basically the summary of Rent Juice is we felt like he should take the money because, I mean, you mentioned 8 months isn't that long. And the only downside would be if it affected, equity percentages.
Yeah.
But I didn't see any mention of that, so I assume it's not.
And even if it was, I think they could have a strong negotiation standpoint because they had enough cash. I think that they wouldn't. It wouldn't be that bad.
And then we talked about the CLV of a Rent Juice customer, and you have to remind me of the formula you used. We didn't have to use CAC or annual churn. We just basically took the monthly revenue times the frequency and then times it by the gross margin.
Yep. It ended up being like just at $3,900 per customer for the lifetime value.
And then we talked about the sales funnel and ways we can improve it. We talked about training, thought it was kind of pathetic that it was just 2%.
Yeah, 2% close rate. Yeah.
And that was based off 100, right?
Yep, 100 calls or whatever ended up being 2 closed sales, and felt like that was not a good close ratio.
Yeah. Maybe I could add the biggest drop was the qualified leads contacting them by email or phone straight to the brokerage firms taking a call. So maybe that's kind of the big gap they could fix.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think that's
that's good.
it. So
Okay, I'll stop the broadcast.